Grunge definitely was influenced by punk artists. And in fact, some people in Seattle in that area say that it was influenced very heavily by some Texas punk artists, friends of mine, people that I know. I think that grunge was kind of a second wave of punk in a way. So I was totally into a couple of the artists in particular. But then, of course, like a lot of things, it became like sort of co-opted and turned into a product and sold as a t-shirt. For me, I think that grunge took punk energy and they kind of married it to a sort of a heavy metal, very heavy, slow, melodic sound. And it was kind of genius. I think grunge is definitely relevant, because we see so many people that are 12, 14, 15 wearing these shirts. There's something that they recognize, especially in Kurt Cobain. But there's something especially about Nirvana, I think, that still people recognize as a person who was in pain that created great art. And I think if you're an outsider, if you're queer or trans, or you're just a nerdy kid that gets pushed around at school, I think it's easy to see and to recognize some of that in a group like Nirvana. If they're popular now, it's because those problems haven't gone away. We still have people that bully in high schools, and we have people that don't like anyone who's different. Cobain and Mudhoney and some of the other people in grunge were outsiders, and they made music from that perspective. I would say in Texas, punk was caught between a rock and a hard place. It's something we always say. Punks in Texas were stuck between a lot of different forces, a lot of racism, a lot of political conservatism, religious, born-again Christians. And if I can only really speak for my feelings, I just hated most of that stuff. I grew up hating racists and all the people in my family that would use the N-word, and I hated the conservative and the narrow-minded around me. Punk in Texas was reacting against local conditions. It was very Texas type of problems. But punk all over the world does also confront conservatism and people that are kind of narrow-minded. It means to shock people or to jar people out of thinking that you have to be a certain way. I feel that the people that are most threatened by punk are people that have a lot invested in the way things are. People that want to believe that the world should be run by white people, for example. People that want to believe that it's not right for a man to kiss a man. People that there's one religion, whether it's Christianity or Islam or Buddhism, but there's one religion that's the right way. I think the people that are threatened are anyone that's sort of concerned that their way is changing and the world is changing and it's not what they grew up with. That's very confusing to people and threatening. So I think those people are very threatened. I think they were very threatened by punk rock 40 years ago, and I think they're threatened today. If I had to define really the spectator for my pictures, I would say outsiders. I think people that are not mainstream or not sort of living a life based on what people tell them to do, they, I think, might recognize, especially my punk rock pictures, and recognize the people in them as sort of fellow travelers.